Yeah, EBK Jaybo the Reaper. And that one you will never see. If I want to do it. Nigga, if I don't want to do it right now, I'm not gonna do it. EBK Jaybo the Reaper. Let's go.
The hottest rappers on the West Coast right now. He keeps catching gun charges though. And today we're diving into his wild come up and the deadly war going on that makes him stay strapped up at all times. EBK Jaybo was born and raised in the southeast area of Stockton around 2100 Nightingale Avenue. He said that back in the day when he was a kid, the southeast wasn't that crazy and everyone was just focused on hustling and making money instead of gangbanging. But that all changed when Jaybo and his homies came up. Jaybo hopped off the porch when he was around 12 years old and started stealing cars and breaking into houses. He got caught robbing a crib when he was like 14, and Jaybo tried to do the race and drive off in a stolen whip. He didn't really know how to drive though, so he just pulled over and let the cops take him to juvie. He was in and out of juvie on little charges from 12 to 15 years old, and none of the early cases were that serious. But when he turned 15, Jaybo caught his first real charge. It's not clear exactly what went down, but Jaybo ended up getting booked on an attempted murder case. Since he was a minor when it happened, there isn't any public info about the situation, and Jaybo has never talked about it either. When he went to juvie, Jaybo was running phase all the time and getting into trouble. He could have been home a lot earlier, but he said he just wouldn't listen to anyone and kept getting time added for breaking rules on the inside. He actually graduated from high school while he was locked up, but Jaybo was working on music at the same time from behind bars. He had been rapping his whole life, but never really took it seriously. Back in the day, he would pound on tables at school and freestyle for the homies though. Everyone around him knew he had skills, but Jaybo was neck deep in the trenches and wasn't even thinking about becoming a rapper. What a lot of Jaybo's fans don't know is that his dad was actually a poppin' rapper in Stockton back in the day named Rory. Rory came up on Nightingale Avenue too. His mom was addicted to drugs the whole time he was growing up, and his dad was always going in and out of jail, so Rory was mostly raised by his grandma. Rory's grandma was really strict with him back in the day and did her best to keep Rory out of the streets. Growing up in her house, he couldn't even listen to rap because his grandma didn't like all the swearing, but Rory still ended up in the trenches. He started breaking into houses and getting into trouble, but what really changed everything for him is when Rory found a local rapper's tape in an abandoned house he broke into with his homies. Nobody knows who the artist was, but it was the first time Rory heard anyone shouting out Stockton on a song, and that's what made him want to hop in the booth and become a rapper. Another big reason he wanted to get out of the trenches was losing his homies to gun violence. Back in 2002,
So his dad inspired him. Hey, W Dad, clap it up. That's rare as hell.
Rory was chilling on the block.
Hey, but it's crazy to clap it.
J.Breezy came up playing football, but
Oh, what the fuck? It's crazy to clap it up for something
EBK Jaybo is one of
that should be going down anyway. So we can't clap it up for that because that should be what be going down anyway. Fuck.
artist was, but it was the first time Rory heard anyone shouting out Stockton on a song, and that's what made him want to hop in the booth and become a rapper. Another big reason he wanted to get out of the trenches was losing his homies to gun violence. Back in 2002, Rory was chilling on the block with his friend Aaron Vickers and some other dudes. Earlier that day, Rory and Aaron had seen cars go by for a funeral and were talking about how they wouldn't want to go through losing a homie like that. Then just a few hours later, Rory watched Aaron die right in front of him. While they were standing on the street, someone pulled through and started letting off shots. Bullets went everywhere and put holes in the crib they were standing in front of. But Aaron was the only one who got hit. Seeing his best friend get killed like that made Rory realize he needed to switch things up. And that's when he really started going hard with the music. But just like Jaybo, Rory's trouble with the cops kept getting in the way of his rap career. One time he was on probation, and someone in Atlanta wanted to meet with him about a record deal. Rory had been gangbanging, but really wanted to switch up how he moved and make it out of the streets with music. But his parole officer said he couldn't go to Atlanta. Rory knew it was a huge opportunity though, so he took the risk and went out to Atlanta without telling his PO. Unfortunately, the deal didn't work out for him though, and to make it even worse, his parole officer found out about the trip and Rory got booked again for violating his parole. Rory still didn't let it stop his grind though. He came back home and went right back to work. He started investing his own money into the rap game and set up his own studio. He even taught himself how to make beats so he wouldn't have to wait around for other producers to send him their tracks. It took a while to get his name popping, but eventually all the hard work paid off. Rory was racking up thousands of streams, getting booked for shows, and linking up with other rappers in the city like Tall T. Tall T was a battle rapper from Stockton who was getting a lot of buzz on his name. He had been in the underground scene for years and was about to really pop off. But then in 2012, he was brutally murdered in broad daylight. Tall T was sitting in Long Park with his girlfriend when someone came up and tapped him on the shoulder. Then Tall T turned around and they upped the strap and shot him in the face. Nobody knows why the shooter wanted him dead, but Tall T's death was a massive loss for the Stockton rap game. The shooting also had a big impact on Rory. He'd only known Tall T for like a year before he was killed, but they got super close and were in the studio together all the time. Rory was still on probation and trying to stay out of trouble, and he said that Tall T is the one who really pushed him to stay on the grind and keep focused in the rap game. Rory was also trying to get Jayboo involved with music back then. Jayboo was just a kid, but Rory would bring him to the studio and have him sing on tracks whenever Rory had an R&B artist pull through and record. Rory was making all the right moves and was finally on his way up in the industry, but then he was tragically murdered while trying to protect his kids. It's not clear exactly how it went down, but this is the story according to some sources. When Jayboo was around 11 years old, some teenagers in the hood robbed him and his brother. Rory had just finished 7 years of probation and was really trying to stay out of trouble, but he wasn't going to let someone just rob his kids and get away with it. So Rory allegedly tracked the teenagers down to press them about it. Nobody knows what really happened next, but after Rory found him, one of the teenagers allegedly pulled out a gun and killed Rory on the spot. Losing his dad changed everything for Jayboo. If Rory was still alive and made it in the music industry, there's no telling what kind of life Jayboo would have had. But after Rory was killed, it didn't take long for Jayboo to jump off the porch and get active. Eventually, Jayboo hopped in the booth and started dropping music. He was working with a company called Thizzler on the Roof, and they were really trying to push Jayboo into the industry. He was running up millions of views on YouTube, but he had too much going on in the streets to really focus on the rap game, and that's how he ended up back in jail. Even though he wasn't even trying to make it in the industry, Jayboo was getting a lot of buzz on his name on the West Coast. Stockton doesn't have a huge rap scene, but Jayboo and his homies were kicking off a new wave that was getting a lot of attention in the city. A lot of them were popping off for rap, but behind the music was a bloody war with their ops in the street. EBK has only been around for a few years, but they're already one of the most notorious crews in the city. They say that they're just a rap collective and aren't involved with the streets, but the cops officially classified them as a gang back in 2018. It's not clear how much work Jayboo was putting in for the crew, but since 2019, they've been making all kinds of headlines for turning Stockton into a war zone. Back in 2019, a dude named Ronald Celestine was shot and killed in a drive-by. Reports say it was 2 EBK affiliates who pulled the trigger, and 3 days later, they spun through his hood again and shot up a candlelight vigil that Ronald's family put on. 5 people were hurt during the shooting at the vigil, and one of them tragically didn't make it out alive. Ronald's cousin Benny Lott wasn't affiliated with the streets at all and just came to the vigil to honor his cousin, but the streets of Stockton are so